So what'll be fun from Daniel's side is Daniel will have to decide what he wants that cavern to name when he draws it. Say he doesn't have an acidic slime in his hand, he still might be tempted to name Ooze on that Cavern of Souls post-board. But it'll be this balancing game of,
Right.
how greedy can he be with the cavern.
Yeah, he's only got one shot with it. So yesterday, when we were looking at the top 8, your pick, when we had 8 players, was the red-green aggro deck.
I did think Alex Evans was going to take it down. Duterte proving us wrong, pulling off the upset, and now moving into the finals against what we thought was probably our other really well-situated deck, which was the Esper deck.
Either Esper Walkers or Esper Control. I think we were both of those decks were in pretty good position. Obviously, one of them had to lose because they faced off against each other. So at this point, you still feel like Esper has the edge, or after getting a look at Duterte's deck, do you feel a little more confident?
Having played Esper, Junk Reanimator was one of the reasons I kind of moved away from Esper.
Okay.
I felt like the control deck, usually you want to build a control deck to beat all the mid-range decks, and I just wasn't sure once they picked up the Acidic Slime deck, that it was actually true that I was beating these Reanimator decks. I think because Daniel has only one Cavern, this one could go either way. I still, Duterte's done so well in the top 8, though, that I still think I give him a slight edge. That said, it's hard to pick against someone who hasn't lost.
Yeah, and the other thing, and this is, stepping back and looking at the format before this weekend, Junk Reanimator is a deck that's always been in the format. And if you're going to show up to a tournament, you're going to expect to face off against Junk Reanimator at some point. So you're going to have to be aware of that matchup. On the other side, you can think, well, I may be faced off against, maybe paired up against an Esper deck, but looking at the format, odds are I could probably dodge Esper the entire time. So I guess what I'm saying is Robert may be more prepared for Junk Reanimator than Daniel is prepared for Esper.
I think certainly when you're building a deck right now, Esper's not even the top control deck you're looking at. That's probably blue-white red at this point. It's not unreasonable to show up to the tournament without a really solid Esper plan. You probably won't be hitting it.
Yeah, and we actually missed it all day through the through the Swiss yesterday. We never saw an Esper deck on camera, and this is actually the first Esper deck we're seeing, and it's here in the finals. Obviously, 2 made it to the top 8, so I think just the quantity of Junk Reanimator in the format makes me feel like Robert should be well versed in the matchup.
And well, Robert is on a 6-card hand here in the finals.
Oh, he's going to show it to us?
Yeah, all right.
Oh, well, didn't get a great look, but I saw Terminus. So, he's going to keep his 6 and lead on a Watery Grave.
So remember, so Daniel is in this matchup striking a balance between card advantage and threats. He wants to make sure that he puts early pressure on. Like, ideally, he would want to have a mana creature into some early pressure, and then followed up with a bunch of mulches and Grisly salvages.
Snapcaster off the top for Robert Seder. I'm sorry. And looks like land go, or is this?
It was a Godless Shrine. He's shocked for a Godless Shrine, so presumably he does play. He's going to think twice or Azorius Charm here,
or potentially Syncopate, depending on what.
Yeah, I suppose so. There's a lot of his life total's not. He has some extra life points to work with in this matchup. Because, obviously he can't just. It's not the kind of matchup like an Esper Mirror where you shock on every shock land, but he can afford to shock on 2 or 3 of them.
And we have a Voice of Resurgence on turn 2 from Dan Duterte, and for Robert's sake, I hope he's got the Syncopate. He does not. He thinks twice.
Yeah, and this is interesting. Duterte has 2 Voice of Resurgence in his main deck. This card is so potent against Esper Walkers. It's very hard for him to answer this card without 2-for-1ing himself.
So he just uses a Cyclonic Rift to bounce the Voice, and just to buy some time as a 1-of Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah, and we're likely to see Duterte recast it. His deck oftentimes has a lot of difficulty doing so, using its early turns anyway. So if Robert's going to give him,
something to do,
sure, he probably will just do it.
But he decides he's going to mulch here. He hits Angel of Serenity, Arbor Elf, and 2 lands.
That was a Vault of the Archangel and a Overgrown Tomb.
Yes, he's going to play Sunpetal Grove and immediately cast an Arbor Elf.
Yeah, interesting to note. Well, he does have the Overgrown Tomb in hand. Otherwise, I was going to say he doesn't actually have a forest in play. The Arbor Elf does not produce mana as of yet.
Robert doing his best to show us his draw step every turn. And
he drew Nephalia Drownyard there off
yeah.
to think twice.
Yeah, I think Azorius Charm was his draw for the turn, and so he is playing to the camera.
So now is the point where Daniel gets to see what plays he's going to make here.
Plays Vault of the Archangel, so that...
All right, we actually need to pause the game
no
here.
forest, there we go.
They know it right away.
Good call.
Yeah.
And you can't cast Thragtusk. You don't have any forests in play, so...
And that's a little bit of a mental hiccup for Duterte. He did have the Overgrown Tomb, and especially in a matchup like this where his own life total is so irrelevant, he's going to get milled. You'd think he would have wanted to make the
he would have been
Tomb
fine
here.
go ahead using the Shockland there. So his play for the turn...
I think he's likely to now be turned into a Voice of Resurgence.
Yeah.
Which, all things considered, isn't terrible.
It's like a mini Thragtusk.
Yeah. Alright, so reweighing his options. Yeah, he's going to go ahead with the voice.
And he's going to...
And a mulch. Okay, so he's still able to use almost all his mana. A pretty good recovery from that play. Gets a Temple Garden off the mulch.
Hits another mulch and 2 Restoration Angels.
So his graveyard now with 3 Restoration Angels in it and a Voice of Resurgence. I think he probably would have preferred to have hit a larger creature at that point, but this will do just fine.
So Arbor Elf comes across for 1, passes back to Robert. Robert's going to cast Jace, Architect of Thought.
Yeah, so what's interesting here, when you said that Robert's deck, remember, has no Supreme Verdicts in it. Instead, it's playing Terminus. Because of that, this Voice of Resurgence is a lot less threatening than one might think it should be.
Jace, Architect of Thought, fairly underplayed Planeswalker at this point, considering how huge it was early in the format.
I think early on there was this allure of, hey, okay, this card says Jace on it.
Right.
It's got to be pretty good. And that's not to say that the card isn't good. I think as the format has moved away from Lingering Souls, kind of will determine when it moves toward Lingering Souls or away from Lingering Souls determines how good Jace is. When Aristocrats was big, I think Jace really got a comeback because it's a very good card in that matchup. But as the format then turned to more mid-range or haymakers, maybe Jace becomes less popular.
So Robert pluses the Jace, and Dan's going to attack with both of his guys anyway, which just hits Jace for 1 because of the -1 ability. Arbor Elf actually hits for 0, and there's that Thragtusk we saw last turn. Yeah. This time he's actually going to hit play.
Yeah, Daniel still doesn't play the Forest, but we do know he has a Temple Garden, or both players know he has a Temple Garden in
Yeah,
hand.
he's I think he's got an Overgrown Tomb.
Yep, he also has the tomb.
So now Robert's turn. Up to him to decide how he wants to use that Jace now that there's a Thragtusk on the other side of the board. Jace +1 isn't as appealing.
Well, he missed his land drop last turn, so what Robert Seder, one of the things he's going to really want to try to do is build up to Terminus mana. And this is, I think, one of the scarier parts playing Esper in this matchup is your control deck. So what you want to do is just, control the board state. But especially against a deck which has 2 creatures that when they die make another creature in play, right? So it has the Voice of Resurgence and the Thragtusk. Those both make things when it dies. On top of that, it has Unburial Rights in the graveyard, and it has an Angel of Serenity in the graveyard. It's actually really hard to control all the things that Junk Reanimator is doing.
So Robert decides he's going to Snapcaster Cyclonic Rift on that Voice of Resurgence, and +1 Jace, which means if his creatures attack Jace will still be alive. Also, Robert's got the Snapcaster available to block. So he's doing a reasonable job of protecting Jace. He plays another Watery Grave before passing the turn. He only looks like he has 1 white source right now, just that Godless Shrine next to that Nephalia Drownyard.
Yeah. Fortunately for him, Duterte does not have one of the 2 main deck acidic slimes in his hand, but he does have a full 7 cards here. It looks like he has Abrupt Decay, some Restoration Angels, still the Voice of Resurgence, and an Unburial Rights. Duterte has no shortage of threats.
Yeah, so if he thinks that Jace is a problem, he can potentially knock it to 1 here if he wants to Abrupt Decay the Snapcaster or somehow deal with it in another way. Looks like he's going to go ahead and Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, and I really like this play because what this does is it means that it doesn't kill the Jace, but it means that Robert can't minus the Jace.
Right. So Thragtusk is going to attack for 4, knocking the Jace to 1, but if I'm Robert, you're attacking my planeswalkers, you're not attacking me.
Well, it's this interesting dynamic. So you have to. It's not whether Daniel's the aggro deck.
Right.
What he's actually trying to do is exhaust the Esper deck of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think Daniel's recognizing this, and I really like how he's playing this, where his main concern is to make sure that Jace doesn't draw cards. Because if you end up attacking a Jace to death, and all the Jace ever did was plus, you actually did get a free card off your opponent. His opponent played a big life gain spell at that point, which is card disadvantage. I think Daniel recognized that, and he's playing toward that end.
So now Robert's turn. He is going to, of course, plus Jace. The only option at this point with Jace Architect of Thought being on just one loyalty counter. And now he's in the tank.
Yep, and so Daniel with the 4 mana up, one of them being white, clearly is representing Restoration Angel and Thragtusk. Robert knows this, can't be too happy about it. And as we know, it is there as well.
Yeah, he's got a lot of 1s and 2s in his deck. 2 Architect of Thought, 1 Jace Memory Adept, 1 Cyclonic Rift, 2 Dissipate, 1 Thorns. It's hard to really guess at what Robert could have in hand without getting a good look at it. I feel like he has a Azorius Charm, so but it's possible he doesn't, and he's going to think twice here.
Yep, he's digging for land main phase. It looks like he did not find it. I think he found a far and away instead.
He did.
And this Esper deck is so reliant on hitting its lands. You see Robert's really getting punished by missing his land drops, which really shows why, at least next game, Acidic Slime is going to be such a devastating card. You'd say, even when Robert's on 7 lands, getting one of them blown up is still a beating for him, at any point in the game.
So Dan does an end of turn, or casts an end of turn Restoration Angel, blinking the Thragtusk, getting a beast, and he has got quite the army on his side of the board. Beast token, Thragtusk, Restoration Angel, and Arbor Elf. All of those are gonna hit for 1 less power this turn, which is something that Robert can look on the bright side, if there is a bright side of this particular board state. A Voice of Resurgence comes down to join that army. That same Voice of Resurgence we've now seen cast 3 times, and Robert says it resolves. At least that's what it looked like.
All right, so yeah, a huge board here for Daniel Duterte. Remember, Robert does play 4 Terminus, so there's some that's helpful, but Robert's still in a pretty rough spot. If he had an instant speed removal like Azorius Charm, he's going to pay a pretty big price in an elemental token on it now.
So 3 creatures attacking. Thragtusk, Restoration Angel, and Beast Token, and Robert has the Azorius Charm to deal with the Beast Token. The Beast Token is the only creature coming at Jace. It is a 2-power creature, and
right, well, Robert's clearly setting up for a Terminus here, not caring about the Elemental token. He chose the token there for a couple reasons. 1, it saves the Jace, and 2, it doesn't put a card, a business card back on top of Duterte's deck.
Yeah. So he's going to take the hit from the Thragtusk and Restoration Angel combo, but Jace survives the turn with 2 counters, which will allow Robert to draw up to 2 cards.
Yeah, and I think
extra next turn.
Yeah, and I think it really seems like, based on his deck list, that it's Terminus or bust at this point.
And off the top, we didn't quite see what it was.
Let's see what he can find.
He has that Terminus in hand.
Do you see the Terminus in hand? I don't remember. He only has single white right now.
Yeah, so he's got to find a second white. And there it is.
One.
And there's a Terminus. And there's a Sphinx's Revelation. So
it'll be interesting to see if Daniel knows what it is that Robert's fishing for.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a mind game here, because that the equation that he needs is Terminus plus white source, but you don't know which one's in his hand.
Yeah. And
with Daniel is like, this Revelation is an unimportant card, so he has to try to bet, okay, I know you have 1 half of the combo.
Right.
I'm going to put the Revelation with the half I think you already have.
And
does he do it correct? Yeah, he's saying that he's working on that problem too. Which one do you have?
It's basically a coin flip at this point.
Well, you know that he didn't have the land last turn, so I think the good money bet is that he already had the Terminus, but at the same point, he did draw a card this turn, and you really would hate to just give him a Terminus for free.
Right.
And a Sphinx's
bounces
Revelation.
back
Because
and
Terminus,
forth.
second Terminus is pretty good here, too.
Yeah.
So you don't want him to have two of them.
Right. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
He's going to give him the free Revelation.
Okay, so
remember, Seder was going to take that lamp pile no matter what was in it.
right, and it's possible Robert actually did have the other white source.
I don't think he did.
But it's possible he did, and it was lose either way.
Right, so Robert gets a free. It's not very often that off of Jace Arctic Spot you get a free Sphinx's Revelation with whatever you want to take.
Yeah.
But Robert got exactly that on that split.
Very lucky for Robert, he hit that white source.
Yeah, and I don't think that's anything. That's nothing wrong on Daniel. I think Daniel may probably, the question is whether or not it's the correct split. Okay, I think the good bet is that the Revelation is supposed to go with the Terminus. At the same time, it's not as bad to be wrong this way as to be wrong the other way. If you put the Revelation with the Terminus, and then your opponent just like casually laughs and takes the Terminus Revelation pile, you just feel really bad about what happened.
You're right. So the board now clear. Daniel left with just the beast. Of course, Voice of Resurgence did not die, so did not leave behind an elemental token. Instead, it was put on the bottom of Daniel's library. So beast attack.
Yeah, so
down to 6.
Robert's life total is pretty low. Remember that Revelation he just got last turn can help with that. But Daniel, with still plenty of threats left in his hand. He has Restoration Angel, he has Fiend Hunter, that one not as good, but he also has an Unburial Rites, an Angel of Serenity in the yard. He's got a lot of plays left that Robert Seder needs to control.
So an Unburial Rites from Daniel, and Robert says, yeah, I'm tapped out, what do you want? Go for it. Angel of Serenity is the pick, and it looks like it's going to grab a couple of, was it a Thragtusk and a Restoration Angel?
It's an Arbor Elf.
Arbor Elf Restoration Angel.
And he has the option of targeting Snapcaster Mage. Robert points
Robert
this out.
If you would like to,
would you like to take my Snapcaster Mage? Daniel declines. For when I possibly kill this Angel of Serenity, can I have a Snapcaster Mage back? No, thank you. That's.
Yeah, you might want to just keep it out of range of any of Robert's Unburial Rites that he doesn't play.
Robert is playing the colors for Unburial Rites.
That's right.
There is the play of cast Unburial Rites on Snapcaster Mage and Snapcaster another spell.
Yeah, that's
if you have
it's a less likely play, I think, but. All right, so follow up, Fiend Hunter.
Can you play a 1/3?
Just a 1/3, not going to get any value out of it.
Other than the next turn, Robert taps out for Etherling. No.
Yeah.
Robert actually is not playing any Etherlings. So.
Not main deck, just one in the board. All right, so Robert gonna do some house cleaning, arrange his mana.
Yeah, he's facing down 9 power, and at 6 life, he's gonna have to deal with that. That's it. I think he's got to be somewhat okay with where things are at. You can't imagine that he doesn't have a kill spell.
Yeah, I mean, considering he's got 9 cards in hand, we know one of them is Sphinx's Revelation. It looks like a land there. I think it was possibly an isolated chapel.
What I like about the play of the 1/3, you might say, well, why would he play Fiend Hunter? It's an insurance policy against Far and Away. Right now, we know that Robert has the Far and Away. If that Fiend Hunter wasn't in play, Far and Away would be such a strong card right now. Bounce the Beast token, make the Angel get sacrificed. As it is right now, Robert has to make a way, if he wants to play Far Away, he has to make a much worse play of Bounce Angel, sacrifice 1/3.
The other play is knowing that Robert had missed land drops, he could have been playing around the okay, I'm going to put 3 extra power. I'm going to make sure I have 9 power so that if you Sphinxes for 3, if you don't hit your land drop, you're at 9, I still kill you.
Right.
But Robert did hit his land drop. It was isolated chapel.
It looks like he's leaning toward the Revelation for 4 go to 1 play, which is pretty scary.
Certainly is. But if you're at 1, you're still in the game. So we'll see.
The only life point that matters is the last
That's
one.
right. So here comes everybody. Angel of Serenity, Fiend Hunter, and Beast Token. Attacking Robert Seder.
So is he going to throw Azorius Charms at everything, or is it just the Revelation? I think it's just the Revelation.
Looks like it's going to be just a Revelation here. And a Notion Thief from Dan. No, I'm just kidding.
No, doesn't have the blue, fortunately.
No. Unburial Rites on Notion Thief.
That would just have a non-blue.
Yeah.
It's so good. I can't cast
in my graveyard.
Alright, so what are we going to see from Robert?
Robert's thinking. And it's a Far and Away. Okay, we know he has that Sphinx's Revelation. He's going to decide instead to try to clear the board a little bit.
Yeah, if he has an Azorius Charm here as well, this is a really strong play. So we're gonna see which creature he decides to bounce. My guess, boy, it's really hard to say.
Right, he could bounce the beast and still end up going to 1 here.
Yeah,
from
bouncing the
Angel.
beast is the play you want to make, but that Fiend Hunter being pretty pesky. And because it doesn't, Robert, we have to assume doesn't have the Azorius Charm. If he did, we would have seen him first Azorius Charm the Fiend Hunter before making this play.
So Daniel's going to flash in a Restoration Angel. I believe the beast was the target.
Yeah, and that should be lethal. If
so
Snapcaster Mage has played it just as a blocker so that Robert can stay alive.
Yeah, so the Restoration Angel came down to be the sacrificial...
sacrifice for
the sacrifice
away.
Exactly. For the far away combo.
For the away half.
yeah. And the Snapcaster comes down, gets in the way of the Fiend Hunter to put Robert to 1. So he had kind of several options to basically go to 1 that turn.
Right.
And Daniel tried to cut him off at the pass with that Restoration
and I
Angel.
do like the way this option means if he draws another land, he gets an extra card off Sphinx's Revelation. It's actually not leaf. It's still, he can't, maybe I don't, because he actually can't afford to Revelation now. He needs another kill spell for that Angel of Serenity.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Revelation there would have drawn him a bunch of cards, and he would have still had the far away for this turn.
I mean, it depends on a lot of things. And if he still has Terminus, well, actually, that doesn't help him right now, because if he casts Terminus, Daniel gets to end step a Restoration Angel. It's going to be pretty hard for Robert to live this turn.
Yeah. He's trying to find a line of play that gets him out of this turn alive, but I don't know.
That could be pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got in his hand. It's really hard. We know he's got Sphinx's Revelation. It looks like a Watery Grave on top.
Yeah, we know that's like the Cyclonic Rift is already in the graveyard. That would
and
be a card.
It's been flashed back by the Snapcaster as well. So.
Yeah, that would have been a card that would help him in the situation. Just Cyclonic Rift on this next turn. But that's not available to him.
So looks like he's going to play. Oh, it was a Drowned Catacomb, so he's playing that. It's untapped.
Right.
He has access to a 5 mana Revelation. Yep.
But that only puts him to 6 life, and he's facing down 7 damage.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, thanks to that Avacyn's Pilgrim that Dan added.
What he can do, and this is not less than ideal, is if he attacks, it could be an Azorius Charm plus a Revelation for 3. Some kill spell plus a smaller Revelation. Or he's going to try to Revelation into the Azorius Charm here.
And he's only playing 3 Azorius Charms, I believe. And he's used 1 of them as far as I know.
Azorius Charm. Not Azorius Charm, and I believe he hit it. So a heads up Revelation, and there you go. The Azorius Charm on the Angel of Serenity gives him a little more reprieve.
Yeah, so Revelation puts him up to 4. Azorius Charm on the Angel of Serenity will remove that creature from combat, and Robert will fall to 2.
Robert, the problem is he just has his back to the wall on the number of life points he's dealing with. What he ideally would like to do is use Nephalia Drownyard to knock that angel off the top of the library. He really doesn't want Daniel Duterte drawing it again.
Yeah.
That said, he may not be able to find an answer to all these creatures and have time to do that. I mean, miracling a Terminus would just be ideal for him, but you can't. He's had no way to set that up yet.
Yeah. So that is that's combat. Robert at 2 now. Daniel at 32.
And just kidding, we had another Angel of Serenity.
Still had all these Angels of Serenity.
And this is when you say that Junk Reanimator is so hard to control. Its threats are, it attacks from so many different hard to answer angles. Like it has a great card advantage engine, it has a great recursion engine. This is the exact example. Roberts has had a lot of lands in play. He has a Sphinx's Revelation, and yet he's having trouble not dying.
So Robert draws for the turn. I believe it was another land, possibly a second Drownyard.
That's a good start, but yeah, he's just a little short on mana to have time.
Yeah, win conditions aren't.
Well, no, I mean, and ideally he really wants to activate Drownyard this turn, but he just can't afford to do it yet. A Terminus would be a great start. because Duterte has tapped out here, Terminus will just buy him a full turn if he has it.
He's got another far and away, but that is not as appealing with all those 1/1s on the board. Or
Yeah,
one
it actually
power
only
guys.
takes care of 2 creatures, so he'll still take 2 on the attack. It actually doesn't even keep him alive for a turn.
And it's like, it's weird. It feels like Robert just hasn't had much action.
Well, he's had almost all the action, you know. But then, so it does feel that way, right?
Yeah.
And you think about, well, what's he done? Okay, he had a Jace, which he activated 3 times. He's cast a Far and Away. He's cast a Sphinx's Revelation. He's cast a Terminus. He's cast a Snapcaster Mage. And you think, well, okay. What, you know, you said you said 4. He sure hasn't had a lot of action. Like, well, what cards qualify as action? He has the Drown Yard in play too. This is his deck's entire game plan, and it's still not doing it's still coming up short. And you know, you think, okay, if he has Far and Away, he can stay alive. But the problem is, then you said it for a turn. But then what about next turn? What's his plan on that turn?
Yeah, he can't even stay alive for a turn here with Far and Away.
And not able to use Nephalia Turn to knock that angel off the top of the deck means that Daniel has another angel in hand.
So everybody attacking. Robert's going to need more than a Far and Away.
He could go Far and Away far, and that would work. No.
Does it? Yeah.
He has enough mana for that.
Okay. Yeah, he's got some lands off screen.
Right, so we see 1, 2, 3, 7 lands getting tapped. I think we're seeing another Revelation, this one for 4. He's going to try to find an Azorius Charm or a Far Away. Just to bounce the angel again.
Yeah, just something to fog the angel. He's drawing for the turn. I know he's showing us what he's drawing, but we can't see it because it's off camera.
And that's okay. So he
found a Far, so that's going to fog the angel.
What he drew is the more important part. So this is the card that's really good in this matchup. As you kind of see, you know how you've seen right now. You're like, man, it feels like every card he's casting is fog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you think, well, how's he actually going to win when all the cards he casts are fog? And he drew his Jace Memory Adept. And this is why I say when the match gets interesting, because what eventually happens is Robert will make a Jace Memory Adept and then continue to use his spells to fog, as it were, and just be like, all right. Hope, 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 don't kill me, don't kill me. And it's this really kind of frenetic game when you're the Esper deck. You're just like, I need to stay alive for 3 turns. Let's see if we can do it.
So, Robert falls to 3 after that Revelation and combat. All the dust settles after that, so Daniel's going to pass the turn.
Yeah, he has, as we know, his hand has 3 angels in it, 2 serenities and 1 restoration. The restoration is the scary one for Robert, as he is at 3 and it's a 3/4.
So Robert really needs to find more ways to stay in this game. Glacial Fortress is, well, it's another permanent. Another land. He's trying
He's
doing some
lands.
math.
He has, I believe he has 4 blue-black lands, so he has a total of 9. Well, he Revelationed last turn. Yeah, I believe he has 9 lands.
Yeah, I think he's separated into the 3.
We're not sure on that. We'll try to get confirmed on his land count.
Right.
But he's gonna go ahead, it sounds like, and pass the turn.
Yeah, so there's that Restoration Angel you mentioned.
And another one.
Restoration Angel. So Robert needs something.
Well, I mean,
major.
It might be what he's hoping to do is think twice into a Terminus.
Right.
Which, if I'm Robert, you try to do it right now. Oh no, he's already drawn 1 card this turn, so you can't miracle this turn. So you get 1 chance to try to miracle into a Terminus. Not exactly what you'd be hoping for.
Yeah. And he's going to Sphinx his Revelation for 7. So he's going to go to 10. This is
on Duterte's upkeep.
Yeah.
And there are 9 power of creatures, so that's going to put him down to 1 again.
Living on the edge.
Right, I know. This is the really fun part of this matchup is you cast Sphinx's Revelations for 7 and you still feel like you're gonna die the entire game.
Robert with
I'm at 1, and
I believe like 13 or 14 cards.
The best
in his
part
hand.
is that this is what stabilizing looks like
Yeah.
in the matchup. I think Robert's gonna pull this one out.
Really?
Absolutely. You know, he just drew a Terminus and he has a memory. He can go Terminus Memory Adept this turn, and at that point,
wow.
I think. You know, well, then he's in the situation. Then he's he's not in the clear yet, but it's looking good at that point.
Well, those last few mills with Jace Memory Adept are going to look impressive with all those terminuses. Just like all kinds of creatures.
Right, that last mill's going to have so many good cards.
Yeah. So Robert falls to 1 after Daniel does attack him with everything.
I believe, is this the second or third time he's fallen to 1?
I think you're right. It's at least the second.
It's at least the second. And then, he's fallen to 1, 1, and 3 on attacks after he's had the Revelation just to gain life to survive.
Three Sphinx's Revelations have already been cast this game.
Right, and sometimes so you cast 3 Revelations, and sometimes you still feel like you're going to lose.
Yeah.
It's just what a great matchup.
It's haymaker after haymaker, one on defense and several on offense.
It's like your opponent has. Well, when you look at Duterte's hand, it's okay. What is it? It's Unburial Rights, Angel of Serenity, Angel of Serenity. I mean, oh my goodness, that's
right.
That's and he's got late game, right?
Right, another Unburial Rights in the graveyard too, alongside it. I think the only creature there is a Restoration Angel.
Yeah. The card that Robert Seder has to be scared of right now is actually Restoration Angel, because next turn he will likely, if he has the mana for it, and I believe he has 11 lands. I mean, after he drew cards, he almost certainly has the 11th in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to probably play Jace Memory Adapt, zero it, Terminus, go. And at that point, if he gets Restoration Angel, he's going to die.
Yeah.
And Duterte does not have enough mana to play Angel of Serenity, exiling Restoration Angel. Angel of Serenity and Restoration Angel on the same turn. He doesn't have 11.
Right.
And if he had 11, then Robert couldn't make that play, because he'd be putting a Restoration Angel back in Daniel's hand.
So, looks like Angel of Serenity is coming down for Daniel. He's going to pocket that Restoration Angel, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. But I think that 1 point's pretty tough to get. I don't think Daniel's going to be able to get this last point across. It's going to be tough. So, and Robert, you can tell he's untapped. His demeanor has changed. I think he knows that he just turned the corner.
Yeah, well, the thing is now it's on the table. That the fear of that Restoration Angel at least is somewhat on the table, because now he knows he needs to he can't tap out entirely, because he will, he's going to give back that Restoration Angel.
Second Drown Yard is played. First thing he does is Terminus.
Yeah, trying to figure out everything that was here. So all you get back, it looks like, is that Restoration Angel and about a dozen other guys going to the bottom there. So I don't think Robert follows up with, even though he doesn't have to fear the Restoration Angel here. I think he just moves to discard.
Yeah. He's got how many mana he has. So he's not going for Jace Memory Adept. Yeah, he has some number of blue-black lands off the top there.
Can we see behind the overlay? We'll see. Yeah, so he's definitely got Dissipate mana available. So he's got at least 2 lands that are kind of off camera, that are untapped, in addition to that Glacial Fortress and that Drown Yard.
He's going to play a little bit slower, as opposed to just trying to slam a Jace here. It looks like he's going to try to Dissipate a play and then make Jace. It's possible that Daniel will be able to make 2 threats and stick a threat to the board as a result, but Robert can deal with that problem once it happens. He really is in the clear right now.
An Acidic Slime off the top for Daniel. Robert's going to count. How many do you got left? Well, I've been putting some on the bottom, so. Funny about that Terminus, or that mill plan, the Terminus kind of works against it in a way. So it looks like not I haven't been counting along, but I think Matthias has. So we're going to get that number. Robert moving kind of slowly here.
It looks like it's a little over 40, 43. So actually with the mills, it's going to be, that's 4 mills, but actually the 4th mill should do it, because it'll have drawn exactly 4 cards.
Right.
So 44 cards over the turn. It's going to be 4 Jace activations that Robert needs to get off here.
Yeah.
Actually the easier way of doing this is you could say, okay, Daniel, for those of you who want to know to count decks, okay.
Count the
yes,
less.
It's 14 cards. What you could say, okay, Daniel has 8 lands in play.
Right.
4 cards in hand, that's 12.
Yeah, 5 cards in the graveyard.
5 cards in the graveyard, that's 17. 60 minus 17 is 43.
Right. Count the
you can count the other half of the deck.
So the Acidic Slime comes down for Daniel and is immediately dissipated.
Yeah, Robert was going to dissipate absolutely anything.
I think
that turn.
Yeah, Arbor Elf.
Every creature Arbor. Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because he read Arbor Elf there. Arbor's like, man, it's lethal. It's a lethal attack. Oh no, Arbor Elf, dang. All right, now I have to kill that.
There's that Memory Adept you talked about, and he's going to go ahead and cut off
down
the
to
top
43.
10.
And the number is a really convenient number for Robert. He's going to get the mills exactly.
Right, so no drown yard activations necessary. They don't actually help.
Right, well, the drown yards, yeah, I mean, so I think what the drown yards do is it means it's going to be 4 turns no matter what.
Right.
Yep, but no, so down to 33 cards for Daniel Duterte. And this is the fun part about the matchup, where, especially because it's this late in the game, you're really activating a million haymakers for your opponent. You know, you're giving him access
off the top
to everything. You know, these unbearable weights in the yard. The matchup gets even scarier when your opponent's playing Crater Hoof Behemoths.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly they have, like, attacking 8/8 hastes, which you're milling them into. It's like, oh boy, I have to be able to deal with that. And
Daniel's gonna read Jace. Don't worry about it. He just takes a top 10. That's all that's ever gonna matter right now. But yeah, that's
well. Interestingly enough, sometimes what you do in this situation, if you there's a couple ways to play this from the Esper side. If it is, and if you have 2 Jace memory depths, which Robert will have post board, sometimes you actually can't afford to 0 it to mill your opponent because you actually will mill them into what they can beat you with. So you'll go +1/+1/+1, and you'll get it up to ultimate, and you'll say, okay, both players draw 20, play second Jace, mill you for 10. And so you'll mill 30 in 1 turn to try to get them.
Yeah, that's a pretty big. That's a haymaker.
Yeah, well, what you do is you'll just drown your them to about 30 cards, then mill 30 in
like
1 turn,
Darth
so they
Maul.
don't have a chance to cast any of these spells.
Cut him right in half.
Yeah, I think Robert doesn't need to do that right now. He doesn't have a second Jace, so he can't actually play to that line.
Right, at least not this game.
Right.
This is super exciting. This is just game 1. If you're just joining us, you are in time, or actually you kind of missed some really cool stuff already, but you're in time to catch the rest of the finals. It says semifinals on the bottom right, but this is actually the finals of the StarCityGames.com Standard Open live from Philadelphia.
Yeah, we have Robert Seder and his Esper Planeswalkers deck in the final. Robert Seder is the last undefeated player in the tournament. He is going for the championship right now. This game, he has gone to 1 life, then 3 life, then 1 life, and has stabilized at 1 life here against Daniel Duterte's Reanimator deck. And what we think is going to get the rest of it, he's got Daniel down to 33 cards, or 32 after the draw step.
Yeah.
So it's exactly enough he needs 3 more activations.
So looked like an Unburial Rites being flashed back to targeting Acidic Slime.
Yeah, so
and I think that's what's on the stack right now.
Interestingly, he chose Acidic Slime. I think he's trying to hit an Nephalia Drown Yard. The Drown Yards actually don't matter at all right now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the count, the count on Jace is actually what matters. And so Robert though is going to respond here. He's got another Snapcaster. He's got 4 of those in the deck.
Yeah, he's got a Snapcaster. He can Snapcaster on a counterspell. Now, of note is that Daniel in his hand has a Restoration Angel. And that is, if you're Robert Seder, Restoration Angel is the scariest card in the deck for you.
And looks like, well, Restoration Angel's coming down too.
He's going to make it...
Was that Snapcaster counterspell? Like I didn't actually see what was used to deal with the Unburial Rites. I don't know if that's still on the stack.
I think it was some sort of counterspell.
Must have been. And then the Restoration Angel came down and was immediately bounced by Far Away.
Yeah, and so Robert's going to activate it again. This puts Daniel down to 22 cards. And now Daniel's in a pretty difficult position.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I know if you've been playing for the last few years and been playing with Planeswalkers, one of the more amazing things, or what makes them so good, is that they can be win conditions, and after that initial mana investment, Robert's sitting there untapped and letting his win condition just go to work for him.
Right.
Not having to attack, it's just gonna, it's attacking in its own way.
Daniel draws his way to 21 cards. And once again, we said that number lines up really nicely for Robert Seder. As you see it play out, it'll be, it'll go 21 to 11 to then, 10 to 0 to it's your draw.
Yeah.
So exactly enough.
Activate, draw, activate, go.
Yeah, exactly enough to get that turn. Though to be fair, he does have a Drown Yards if he wasn't able to do it.
So
well, actually with 21, he can I should correct myself. With 20, he can end step mill him to 16, untap, then mill 16 more. So this is actually Daniel's last turn right now. If he doesn't, yeah.
So we have an Unburial Rites on the stack. Didn't see the target. May have been Fiend Hunter because that's kind of sitting there on the top. But Not quite sure.
As long
Robert
as
is-
it's not acidic slime, Robert can let this resolve. There is, like I said, Robert has the win right now. Daniel has to win this turn. If the creature doesn't have haste, doesn't interact with Drown Yard, Robert doesn't have to care.
Yeah, it may very well be acidic slime. I think it is, yeah, because that was what he tried last time.
Fine,
And so Robert says, all right.
So Robert's he's just going for the 2-turn win instead.
Which is scary, though, because he's at 1 life. So
Yeah.
he's got that's 1 more turn he needs to survive without taking a single point of damage.
All right, so remember, Daniel Duterte, we see 32 as his life total up in the corner. It's funny, when I play Esper, I actually, in the upper corner, write my number of cards in my opponent's deck when I keep track of it. So Daniel's real life total is 21 right now, you could say.
Yeah,
it's 21
it's
cards in deck.
And,
I think he's using a Revelation for a lot. So he's just going to cast the last one.
This was end of turn Revelation.
Revelation for all his mana. And that's going to make this way safer than any of his other plays.
Yeah, he's going to hopefully have a lot of ways to interact with anything that Daniel's able to do, just to preserve that 1 life.
Yeah, it looks like a Revelation for 10.
Yeah, there is Robert showing, I believe, I don't know if he's trying to show us or trying to show someone, our spotter, whether or not that.
So Daniel's going to take the opportunity while he's tapped out to Restoration Angel, blow up the other Drown Yard. And, and as long as Robert didn't draw an answer that's Restoration Angel, then Daniel will get the game. Unfortunately,
Right.
Robert drew a fair number of cards.
Yeah.
So it's
Or an unfair number of cards.
a very unfair number of cards.
So Restoration Angel does come down for Daniel Duterte in response to that Revelation, and I believe there was a Terminus happening there. All the creatures, including the Snapcaster Mage, going to go to the bottom.
Yeah, Daniel is down to 11 cards in deck off that last Jace activation.
Except for 2 just went to the bottom.
So now it's up to 13.
Yeah, so
but there's the Drown Yard here.
Drown Yard is going to be necessary here to keep that same clock.
Well, Robert, it's interesting. He doesn't even have to. He can cast a counterspell this turn because next turn he can just Jace activate Drown Yard, and that should be good.
Right.
As long as the Drown Yard doesn't hit the graveyard.
Right.
And
So
now,
he actually played a second Drown Yard. It's technically his third because 1 was hit with acidic slime.
yeah, actually both were hit with acidic slimes because he Restoration Angel.
Oh, that was
acidic
right.
slime
I'm
last turn.
sorry.
So this is his only Drown Yard.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel should be 12 cards in his deck now. Remember, 2 were put on the bottom.
Right.
So he should not cast Grisly Salvage, the one he just drew. and
we're scooping him up, and Robert Seder takes game 1 in a record 40 minutes.
In short fashion, Robert
order.
makes quick work of Daniel Duterte. No, so 40 minutes in, he's up 1 game to 0. And actually in the Swiss round, this would be the match, which is interesting. In Swiss rounds in this matchup, playing either side of it, you have to be very aware of the clock.
Right.
Especially for the Esper player, because this is how they win. It's
Yeah.
something that Robert, as clearly, I think someone who went undefeated through the Swiss is pretty aware that that's something he needs to do with
It's like,
the
this
deck.
is the first time I've sideboarded all weekend.
Right.
Probably not. But we have some trivia questions, some SCG Premium to give away. This is the finals. We are 1 game deep, and that means we're going to give away 1 year of SCG Premium. All you need to do to compete or to be involved is tweet the answer to the question we ask with the hashtag SCG Premium. You can see it down there, and you'll be in the running if you're one of the correct answers. 1 random winner will be chosen for 1 year of Star City Games Premium.
All right, so what is our last question for the Standard Open?
So we're going to stick on the theme of Grand Prix Miami because that is just 1 week away.
All right.
We've already confirmed that it's happening in Miami.
Okay, that was a tough one, but we actually a lot of people got that one right.
Yeah. So we're good on that.
We know the hosts for the event.
Right. The coverage for the event is Osip, Cedric, and Patrick Sullivan.
Right.
Those guys are going to be bringing you guys all the action if you can't make it out to Miami, which, sometimes
it's far away, but you can be part of the action on
right.
SCG Live.
You get to, and they could have all kinds of cool surprises up their sleeves. I can't even imagine what they could be, pulling out. But what I want to know now, though, for Grand Prix Miami, because this is one of the other more exciting things, I think, that are about the event. We've got some Magic artists that are going to be there.
Okay.
3 big names that you've seen, small names at the bottom of your cards. They're big names. They've been doing a lot of artwork over the years. We've got 3 of them. Who are the 3 artists?
All right. All 3 are.
We want all 3. This is for a year.
It's for your, okay.
12
so
months.
we have. All right. So we're wondering what.
Who are the 3 guest artists, special guest artists for Grand Prix Miami?
Okay.
So for 1 year of premium, you can get them all. And again, I think here's a tip. MagicGP.com may have you may be able to find a way to find the answer on that.
Yeah, one of the artists I'm actually pretty excited about at the event, I know is thematic, is pretty renowned for drawing angel cards.
Actually, a lot of really cool artwork over the years. I know exactly who you're talking about. A lot of angels recently are the more iconic pieces, but cards even like. Well, I'm not going to name it because I don't.
Yeah, that one give it away, and then you could use Gatherer.
That's right.
All right.
We don't want to give you 2 ways to find the answer.
So in this matchup, things change a little bit after sideboard, and it's interesting because when you talk about the sideboard in this matchup, it's somewhat reactionary between the 2 players. So maybe we'll start with kind of like how it evolves in the sideboard. I think the first sideboard move comes from Daniel Duterte's junk deck. What he looks at in this sort of matchup is he's going to go going up to a full set of acidic slimes.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most relevant thing. He goes up to 4 acidic slimes, and he goes up to a 3rd Voice of Resurgence and a pair of Sin Collectors. So suddenly he has all these weapons against Robert Seder. And they're, acidic slime is just so brutal in the matchup. Sin Collector's pretty good as well. The idea, as we saw there, Robert really struggled to stabilize. He did get there on 1 life, but it was it was a lot of a fight. It suddenly starts to become a fight that Robert really has trouble winning in this matchup. Like the number of cyber cards that Daniel has tips the scale enough that these removal spells are not a reliable way for Robert to win the matchup. So then the question is, what does Robert do in response? How does he win it? What you'll see is he'll board in the other Jace Memory Adept for sure. He's going to have to win fast because he just knows that his late game's not going to be enough here. He's going to bring in the Rest in Peace. Obviously, you're playing against Reanimator. It'd be very silly not to. You will probably see him try to be a little more proactive with his threats, have less answers. You probably will see Evil Twin come in to try to Evil Twin away Thrag Tusks, maybe Angel Serenity, things like that. You'll see the Purify the Grave happen. You may see him try for Psychic Strike because he knows that his opponent only has 1 Cavern of Souls.
Okay.
He may not go for that as well. So that'll be interesting to see what he does. But the Planeswalkers become a lot more important in this matchup post-board. What'll be hard for Robert is, especially on the draw here, say if Daniel plays a turn 1 mana creature into a turn 4 Cavern of Acidic Slime, that's the scary part for Robert.
Yeah, do you feel like Tragic Slips may even be a relevant card? Because we saw how well
it kills a mana creature.
Right, it kills a mana creature early, and sometimes there were so many situations there where it was like that 1 power that he needed to be worried about, like with a Fiend Hunter that Daniel played that it just needed a 1/3. In fact, he just needed a 1/1, but it just happened to be a Fiend Hunter that he had. So it was just that extra power that Daniel was trying to put on the board, and if Robert is able to interact with that, the scary, well, I wouldn't say it's scary, but bringing in Rest in Peace makes your Snapcasters much worse.
Yeah, and it does make your Snapcasters worse. It's kind of a necessary evil in that situation when you play the deck. You do have the fact that Robert, it's clear the sacrifice he's willing to make because he has Rest in Pieces in his board. You'd say like, well, why would a lot of decks, especially when we saw blue, white, red control, is so reliant on Snapcasters that it only plays Purify the Grave in the board. So I can't cast Rest in Peace. In this matchup, what Robert can do, he only has 1 Rest in Peace, so play it.
Draws a lot of cards, but
yep, and then you may side out some number of Snapcasters. You may also just kind of accept that if you play the Rest in Peace, you're going to have some dead Snapcasters.
Yeah.
As we saw, really the cards that mattered were Sphinx's Revelations from Robert. Once he started revelating, he was discarding cards. Snapcaster is a good card to discard at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Another card I was thinking about, and I just maybe this isn't the way he wants to go, but considering the fact that his primary win condition can also paint him into a corner against a deck that enjoys being milled, as long as it's not for its final card. Do you think he brings in a secondary win condition to attack on a different angle? He's got that 1 Aetherling. You know, do you think maybe he wants a card that can...
A card like Aetherling?
Yeah.
Well, the bigger issue with a card like Aetherling is when you have to think about the ways that Daniel's attacking him. He's attacking him first and foremost with acidic slimes. If Daniel's succeeding on that front, Aetherling's never going to hit the table.
Okay.
The second way he attacks him is with Thragtusks. And, Thragtusk's Thragtusk is an Angel of Serenities, an Angel of... and Restoration Angels. Aetherling can block a Thragtusk well with a mana, so that it has some potential there, but it doesn't really interact with the flyers, and it's going to be really rare that Robert's in a situation where you can start racing those cards, because Thragtusk is so hard to race. So when you think about it, Thragtusk, the Aetherling doesn't really respond well to any of the game plans that Daniel's on, and it's probably why it stays in the sideboard.
Okay, that makes sense. And it looks like the players have sideboarded, shuffled, and they're evaluating their openers. And Robert trying to again show the camera, but I think he's showing the player cam. That's what he's doing. We're not looking at that camera, but I appreciate the effort. It is nice to have a player try to show us what he's got in his hand.
Yeah.
But the better way to do it, just for everybody, is just keep your hand a little bit tilted when you're holding it.
For the most part, we generally can tell what's in someone's hand.
As long as
I would say as a player, don't worry about it. Win your game.
See how he's got it right now? Like, that's pretty good. And he just tilted a little bit. We can see he's got Glacial Fortress. He's got a Hallowed Fountain. He's got a Azorius Charm. He's got that Rest in Peace in his opener. He's also got, I believe, a Jace Memory Adept, and then he just kind of hid the last few cards. But, that...
Yeah, and that Jace Memory Adept, like I said, probably the biggest card in the matchup on Robert's side. Obviously, the thing he's really worried about are acidic slimes.
Yeah, and that Rest in Peace, it's going to be an interesting way. We're going to see how he uses that Rest in Peace, because acidic slime also hits Rest in Peace. So it will save one of Robert's lands if that ends up happening, but he kind of would ideally like to keep that Rest in Peace in play, so he's going to have to kind of maybe hold it back and wait until an opportune moment to use that Rest in Peace, so it has at least some impact when it hits the board, in case an acidic slime were to come down and remove it immediately, if he's unable to protect it. So looks like Robert is keeping his 7, and Dan is at least going to 6, if not 5. It is 5 right now. So down a game. You don't want to keep a risky opener.
Well, yeah,
but at the same time, it's not great to be going to 5.
Robert's got to be really happy about this. Certain kinds of hands can do real well on 5 cards, and certain ones can't. The scariest hand for Robert is a ramp into acidic slime hand. On a 5-card hand, ramp is one of the strategies that probably takes the biggest hit from mulligans. Because ramp requires, for example, for rampant growth to let you play a turn 4 card on turn 3. Not only do you have to have the rampant growth on turn 2, but you also have to have the additional 4th land in your hand and the card you want to play. It's really hard to assemble all those pieces on a mulligan.
So we're underway. Daniel keeps his 5, leads with a Temple Garden, and turn 2, Arbor Elf. So he's hit his land drops. He's got his mana source. I don't see the acidic slime at the moment, but it's possible it's there and I just missed it. So Robert goes ahead and uses that Rest in Peace immediately. I don't think I would have used it that way. Well, I think I would have held back until it had at least some impact, removing something relevant.
And it really depends. If he doesn't have a card like Think Twice in his hand, it's fine to play it right away.
Yeah.
One of the ways that Daniel's deck is successful on a mulligan is that it gets an early Grisly Salvage out and just reanimates something unfair. If those are the kind of draws that Robert's most worried about, it's correct to Rest in Peace, even if it's taking away your own Think Twice.
So Restoration Angel from Daniel is met with a Think Twice from Robert, and now Daniel's turn. Able to swing in for 4 this turn if he would like. And there's that Grisly Salvage, so he is actually just...
Right, and I think this is exactly, say one of these cards flipped was an Unburial, he had an Unburial Rights in his hand, right? So I think Robert has really correctly, you're saying about the Rest in Peace, it would be so scary right now if Daniel were to be doing this and then immediately Unburial Rightsing acidic slimes.
Right, so his choice right now is Acidic Slime or Thragtusk. or Avacyn's Pilgrim, but that's really not one
Well,
of the...
he really has to decide whether or not he wants to become a graveyard deck. He doesn't really, like, if you take the Acidic Slime, you could hit a land with it. You could also just hit the Rest in Peace with it, which is probably the better play. Daniel only has 4 power in play, so it's probably not enough to win the game with it. So he can either try to become a graveyard deck and Acidic Slime the Rest in Peace, or he can just say, well, I'm not going to be a graveyard deck, that's fine. I'm just going to try to attack you, take Thragtusk.
So that's the decision that Daniel is trying to make right now. And it looks like he's potentially favoring that slime. At least that's what he's got his hand on right now.
Yeah, and it really
Yeah,
depends.
now he moved to the Thragtusk and back to the slime. We've seen him do this already with that Sphinx's Revelation
Well,
earlier.
I'm
sorry, with the...
I like taking the
Jason
Acidic
Architect
Slime because it turns on the Unburial Rites in his hand. You know, and that Unburial Rites is not a card until Rest in Peace is gone.
But the Thragtusk really wanted to be chosen, jumped into Daniel's lap, so he just had to oblige.
Right, so now Daniel's on. Now Daniel has
Thragtusk.
committed to attacking.
And he
hoping
attacks
this attack
now.
works.
Yeah, so attacks for 4 with that Restoration Angel. Arbor Elf combo. Robert draws for the turn. It's a Watery Grave.
So now that Daniel's deck's playing on a fair axis, you know, it's not, its card advantage engine is gone. It's just me making really efficient threats. This is going to be more like a traditional control matchup of threats versus removal. The question will be, does Robert have the removal to answer all the things that Daniel's doing?
So for Robert's turn, we know he's got his land drop. He's trying to decide exactly how he wants to use his turn. Or potentially just pass, play a land, pass, and leave mana open for that, to at least bluff a counterspell on that Thragtusk. So he's going to go ahead and play a Godless Shrine tapped, pass back, representing a Dissipate.
And remember, Robert, he has the Jace Memory Adept, so he already has the win con in his hand. He needs to clear the board to a spot where he can play it, but after that point, you know, he should be in the clear.
So a Voice of Resurgence is the play from Dan Duterte. Declines to lead with that Thragtusk just in case.
I think he's playing around Syncopate right now.
Yeah.
Daniel really can't afford to have a spell countered here. Remember, he's playing a fair deck now. He doesn't have an infinite supply of threats, so he's going to have to start playing around removal more carefully than he normally would.
And in response, we're going to have a Cyclonic Rift on the Restoration Angel, and the Voice of Resurgence is going to resolve. He does that so he can avoid putting any sort of elemental token into play. I guess Robert's plan that turn was to bounce the Angel during combat.
Yeah, I think what he's doing is he's clearing the way to make a Jace Memory Adept right now. You know, right now he can make it, and it's not going to get attacked. And we see that. Jace comes into play with 4 counters, only 3 power. There's only 3 power on Daniel's side of the board. But Robert doesn't like the holding in his own hand right now. He's going to choose the draw mode on Jace instead.
So he mills Dan for 1 card, I think, and drew 1 card himself. And Daniel, again, reading Jace Memory Adept. Why don't we have that up on screen so our viewers can look at it?
So typically when you play with Jace in Limited, or most formats, Jace has 1 ability. It's 0 mill a player for 10.
That's his main,
his main purpose. What is nice about him is he has a secondary ability, which I guess is his first one, but the secondary one is he has +1, draw a card, target player puts the top card of his or her library into his graveyard. You primarily do it for a draw card and for the fact that it adds 1 loyalty, and it's only a turn if you have multiple Jaces in your deck, +1ing it up to 7, -7ing it, making both players draw 20, and drawing another Jace is actually only 10 cards slower than doing it the 0 way.
So Robert's going to keep ticking it up, as you mentioned. In the meantime, Daniel has attacked again with the Arbor Elf Voice of Resurgence combo and landed a Thragtusk, but he is attacking Robert's life total and not Jace.
Yeah, he didn't even, it looks like he didn't even go at Jace on that last attack.
No.
He just went straight at the dome.
So Robert's going to take that opportunity to keep plussing his guys. And then a Terminus is going to clear the board, leaving just a Beast.
Yeah, Terminus is so strong against Voice of Resurgence. Remember, Voice of Resurgence is not a leaves play trigger; it's a dies trigger.
Yeah.
So it's nothing happens to it off Terminus.
So a lone Beast on Daniel's side of the board, facing down a 6 loyalty Jace Memory Adept, and he is just ignoring it. He's going to keep attacking Robert's life total.
That's very bold. You see why he's doing it. I think he really feels like he can't. That if he gives Robert enough time by attacking the Jace, that Robert will certainly draw an answer. But the game is closer to it's already closer to lethal than you might think. Robert with a great play.
Robert has far and away after +1ing that Jace. And at this point, if Daniel cannot do some damage to the Jace, which I can't imagine how he could, Jace it would be able to ultimate. We don't know if Robert's drawn into that second Jace, but you mentioned that play of ultimate Jace and then play another Jace and mill 10 to mill for 30.
I think you're going to mill 10, and then he's going to make that mill 10, then mill 30. And actually, because that play only works if there is a Jace in your top 20, because Robert only has 2 Jaces, and he's so far ahead on the board, he may just start zeroing it and not caring about the ultimate. You know, he could do that both players draw 20 line and not draw his second Jace, and he'd really hate to see that happen.
Looks like he may be on a different line entirely. He +1s to draw a card, and I think he wants to ultimate Jace and then continue to plus it, or leave it there and zero it. So I think that may be the plan. So Thragtusk, the only creature he needs to worry about at this point, and Thragtusk is going to attack his life total. Again, completely ignoring the Jace, and Robert likely to have an answer in the form of Far and Away, and he's using the sacrifice half. Yep. Not giving the Thragtusk back to Daniel.
Right, I know. It's like, well,
here,
now
just
put it in your
again.
hand or graveyard. I'll choose graveyard.
Yeah, which of course, Rest in Peace being in play makes it even better. Not even graveyard, just exiled. So Daniel with, I believe, an Angel of Serenity and an Avacyn's Pilgrim in hand, or is that? No, I'm sorry, that's on Burial Rites. He's flashing them so quickly it almost looks like they're a green card. But yeah, I think it's Angel of Serenity and on Burial Rites. Oh, okay. He's got 3 cards. One of those may be a Restoration Angel.
In Daniel's hand, we have Unburial Rites, and I don't know about the other 2 cards. It's not particularly relevant right now. You know, because of the Rest in Peace, Daniel's deck's a fair deck, and the problem is, as long as Robert has a kill spell every turn, there's not much that Daniel can do about this.
Yeah, and I think one of those cards, I'm pretty sure he's got 2 different Angels in hand. I think it's Restoration and Angel of Serenity, and especially the fact that he just paused after that kill spell on the Thragtusk kind of telegraphed the fact that one of those cards could be Restoration Angel. So here on Robert's turn, he is going to ultimate the Jace Memory Adept, leaving it with 1 loyalty counter. Yeah. Both players draw 20 cards, right?
Any number of target players draw 20.
Okay.
Robert is really playing this the classic way. He's just 20 for himself right now. He just wants more answers.
Yeah, I guess that's something.
I mean,
he's
not trying to aggressively win right now. I don't think he feels any pressure to do so.
Especially after drawing 20 cards, he's got as many answers as he could possibly want.
The line Robert's going to do, almost certainly here, is he's just going to draw into some Nephalia Drown Yards, just continue to play removal spells. As we saw at the end step, he flashed Snapcaster Mage in there, which is a pretty savvy plan. He'd already decided in his head that he was going to draw 20, so you know you're probably going to have to discard after a draw 20. Why not just put a 2-1 into play?
Right.
Yeah, so we're going to see him just draw a bunch of removal spells and start Nephalia Drown Yarding his opponent.
And that looks like what Robert's trying to decide on, what removal spells he wants. Just basically just move them all to the front. Okay, I want some number of Sphinx's Revelations maybe. Yeah. Even then, I don't even know how much you want the Sphinx's Revelations after drawing 20.
Yeah, so what he can do here is he can move to end step. And I think that's what he said. He put his opponent to end step. And now, that'll let him. All right, he can syncopate for 2, or he can.
Right. So he's going to Far Away. So, okay, I'll bounce the beast to make you sacrifice a guy.
And Robert, just with no sense of urgency, that Far and Away means that he can't activate Nephalia Drown Yard this turn. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Mill you for 1 during your draw step.
Yeah, there's just.
So now, Angel of Serenity and I think Avacyn's Pilgrim and on Burial Rites in Daniel's hand, and it's looking really good for Robert at this point. And I think Daniel agrees he's going to extend the hand, and Robert Seder takes the game and match on the back of Jace Memory